Welcome to local government.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today. Regina Huerter from the Office of Behavioral Health Strategies, City and County of Denver. This is a very complex issue, and like others, I appreciate the dialogue and the challenges with this. For the City and County of Denver, we do oppose this particular bill. And a lot of it, and people have said, yes, you're going to hear about all the different kinds of services, and yes, you're going to hear about those services. The City and County of Denver last year spent over $40 million in trying to address the issues of homelessness. This year will be over $47 million in trying to address the issues of homelessness. And it's really across the whole spectrum that we're trying to address. And that's one of the challenges here is that homelessness, those experiencing homelessness, face a great deal of challenges, and so do municipalities in trying to address that. We've got children, we have families, we have women, we have couples, we have individuals who are experiencing homelessness. Some of the things that we're doing, and it's been interesting to hear the criticisms of Denver, and yet I can tell you in the DU study that they named 3 things as what they advise people doing, and we're doing all 3 of those and then some. They have particularly named one of our projects, which is the recovery court, specifically named it as one of the best practices, and we're also seeing that as the best practice and having great results with it. In addition to those types of things, the Housing First, rapid rehousing, and specialty types of courts, which unfortunately does mean that somebody has had a ticket to come into that specialty court. We have social impact bonds that we just opened up. Over 250 different units of housing are being set aside for persons on a Housing First model. We're paying for our own Solution Center because the state of Colorado wasn't able to help provide for our Solution Center in Denver. So we're paying for that ourselves, and we'll be opening that later this year. We are investing over $10 million in revolving affordable housing loan fund. I can go down through all those kinds of lists, but I'm going to jump to a couple of the things. We just opened up the Lawrence Street Center. We have a very robust system, and shelters to me are a part of the spectrum. And I would agree that they should not be the end place. They should be the beginning place oftentimes to try to help get people to the right kinds of services. But we did just open up the Lawrence Street Community Center, which provides
the
for
rescue
shower
mission
bathrooms,
opened it
water
up.
fountains
You
down
loan
in
them
the
the
area
money to do it,
for
and they have
people
to
be
pay it
in,
back.
and it's filled every single day. And that's in addition to all the 800 plus people that are served by St. Francis Center. Don Pravinsky spoke earlier about all of their work that they are trying to do. They are partners with us in the social impact bonds. We have outreach folks that are at the Denver Library. We have our specialty courts. We have co-responders that are mental health clinicians that will be rolling with police. That initiative is just starting this month. We are also we have transitional residential treatment beds that are specifically for persons with addiction issues. They can be there, and it's right now an average of 70 days, but some can be up
Thank
to...
you so very much for your testimony. Your time is up. Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Huerter. I appreciate some of the efforts Denver is trying to do to alleviate this crisis in homelessness that we have. However, my question relates to the bill itself and the effect it would have on the city of Denver. And so as I look at it, and if the bill is amended, it basically states, and this is sort of my impression of it, that we would not be able to control at all moving or just the situation of homeless, particularly, let's just say, in our public parks. So is that a fair assessment to say that many of our public spaces would become de facto homes for homeless, and that the city would not be able to do anything about it?
Ms. Huerter?
Thank you. Municipal codes are often about trying to regulate, and these particular types of municipal codes about regulating time, place, and manner in which open space or public space, I should say, is used. In this particular bill, one of the challenges, and it was dialogue before about that it's rather nebulous about what actually is impacted or not. Is it about homelessness or is it about all citizens? So yes, if this type of bill were to pass, then it would limit the ability to be able to manage in an appropriate way those public spaces for all citizens, instead of having an additional kind of carve out for a specific population. It is unclear about whether or not you can actually regulate. Before I was giving an example, if you had two people that are similarly situated, do you treat both of them the same? I think part of the discussion was that it's for all people, which then would leave us in a place where no, we would not be able to regulate some of that public space.
Representative Ledesop.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask you a question about, you just said special carve out, and the way I read the bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that we're creating a special carve out. Do you have the bill in front of you, ma'am? Could you turn to page 5 and one of the, and this is just one portion of the bill. Page 5, I think it starts on line 15. A person experiencing homelessness is permitted to use public space in the same manner as any other person. And so there's a number of places where it speaks to this in the bill, and I'm struggling to find why, even though the title does specifically say Bill of Rights for person experiencing homelessness, the bill specifically says in the body of the bill that we're treating folks who are homeless like any other persons, right? And so explain to me, please, on page 5, how that is a special carve out for homeless folks.
Ms. Huerter? Thank you. So I don't know that I can fully do this justice. When I look at in the same manner, I look at there's on the riverfront that there are park curfews that are in place to be able to regulate camping and to be able to regulate the use of that public space, so that bicycles and pedestrians can also use that space. So that is, when I think about in the same manner, that would be something that's free for all persons to be able to use that particular space. This would allow for, as I'm understanding it, things could be like camping, and this is where I think the bill is actually a little bit challenging, because in one place it says that you can have, if it's not authorized, that it wouldn't impede on that, and in other places it's talking about the same manner. Well, the same manner is that in the public space like the riverfront, you cannot do certain things like camp. So I don't know how to answer your bill, because I think the bill itself is confusing.
Okay. Further questions? Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Huerter, for taking all the time that you've taken on this so far. What I'm trying to understand is, you listed just a litany of amazing programs, and I think there is just a good opportunity for people to come together over some of the standards that you've set. My question is, and I know we had a conversation about this just a couple days ago, what here would prevent those services from moving forward? Or is there something in addition to this that would hinder the implementation of those services, would hinder the expansion of those services, or would just render those services less effective than they are today?
Ms. Huerter.
Thank you. Again, there's a wide spectrum of persons who are experiencing homelessness. So what we're fortunate with is that a lot of folks who are experiencing homelessness are willing and agree to engage in services that are available, and we can get them out of that homelessness, or at least help them move into a place that is safer for them to be able to move forward. But what happens oftentimes is that there are persons, and a lot of folks here have identified the issues of underlying mental health and substance abuse issues. And those factors are often factors that result in persons not being willing to engage in services. And yet they also often preclude themselves because if they're intoxicated, they may not be willing or be able to be in a shelter because of their current state of mind. So it puts everybody in a situation, and they may not be in a place where they really understand the impact that they're having on other persons because of their current state of mind. So the challenge is that if we don't have a way to help contact, and again, I think that Denver has done a tremendous job. I know that our camping ban and sit and lie is often brought up, but I can tell you it is used very, very sparingly, and when it is actually used, it is about trying to get people to services. So people are not generally arrested in that particular area. In fact, only 2 people in 2015 on sit and lie, and since the enactment of 2012 on the camping ordinance, only 5 persons. So we are not using that to try to criminalize people, but we are using it to try to help when people refuse to move forward and refuse to engage in services, to be able to help access some kind of leverage for them to do something. So can it preclude us from addressing people and get to services? We are doing outreach. We have homeless outreach. We have outreach within the libraries. We have police doing outreach, but some people are still going to refuse, and they're still going to then to impede other people's rights because of their behaviors.
So, I'm not going to belabor the point because we took a lot of time before, but since the unauthorized camping ordinance passed in 2012, my understanding is, and the way you've explained it, is the idea is that it was actually set up to help people who are homeless. So if that's the case, has homelessness increased, decreased since 2012 in a per capita way? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? How has it changed? And how is that ordinance, which might be legally questionable right now, improve things or not?
Ms. Huerter? Thank you for that question. I don't have a direct answer for you, and that is there's a point in time study that's done, and that point in time study looks at not just Denver but the metro area, and it is kind of the best that we have. So John testified earlier that there's about 1,000 people in Denver Metro, and probably about another 1,000 statewide. I don't have any kind of figures to say that is or isn't true. What I know is that I would agree with folks that the criminal justice system is not the place for persons with mental health and substance abuse issues. What I do know is that as a municipality, we also have to make sure that we're trying to deal with all the needs of all different citizens and trying to help people get to the right kinds of services. I don't know the answer for you on exactly how many people are homeless, if that has increased or not increased, according to the point in time surveys. I would largely say that it has increased. There's also a lot of factors that bring people either into Denver or may move people through Denver. So I don't know those answers for you right now. I can tell you the number of services have greatly increased.
Representative Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Huerter, and I know you're sort of representing the city of Denver and may not have this data in terms of, but nevertheless, my question is sort of about law enforcement. We heard earlier, and sort of in my conversations with the sponsors about people who've been, moved along and they've lost some of their properties and their property's been stolen. Assertions about police rifling through their property, stealing some of their property, things like that. And then, of course, from my conversation with Mr. Lopez earlier, saying, well, then, there should be a filing of a complaint, and that. So what is your sense on, and of course understanding that not everybody's comfortable filing a complaint, what is the complaint process about, or how that works for someone who is homeless who'd like to file a complaint against a member of the police, and also suggestion to you if they don't feel comfortable filing it within like a police department. Maybe, because we have an Office of Human Rights and Community Relations, maybe they could file it there. What are some alternatives that we could have? So I know I'm sort of rambling on a little bit, but it's sort of the all-encompassing issue of the complaint issue about potentially any police. The assertion is that the police are harassing people and their property.
Ms. Huerter? Thank you. So in the city and county of Denver, the Office of the Independent Monitor would be the place that the complaints are officially filed. And that process can be accessed in person, it can be accessed online, so that it is, they could call 311, which is a general kind of number, and be able to get access to that particular office. The complaint process actually is relatively simple. They have persons who are there as advocates. I think that one of the things I would also say is that I know that Denver is a large jurisdiction, but there's also a whole lot of other jurisdictions are involved in this. And so sometimes people, and I'm not, you're talking specifically, are people's items taken? I cannot address that. I don't know that or not. But what I do know is that for Denver Police, that we have actually 14 dedicated officers just around these particular issues. And I know that over 8,500 referrals just since last year, just only 11 months of 2015, were given for persons to have access to resources. I cannot speak to whether or not property was taken or not. And again, I would agree with you that there's appropriate channels to go through if complaints need to be made. Most certainly people can also call my office and I'd be happy to help them access that complaint process.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you. That'll be my final question. Thank you, Ms. Huerter, for that update. And one of the sections that really hasn't gotten any discussion on, or I left the room briefly, but so maybe there was some, but on page 5, the right to eat, share, accept, or give food in any public space. What are the ordinances right now in Denver on giving free food? I have, upon occasion, taken a walk through the Civic Center Park, and I have seen the distribution of food for, I believe it was a church. Is that legal, what they're doing?
Ms. Huerter.
Thank you. So right now, often not even from Denver, that are coming into Denver and are giving away food. And there's kind of a large kind of circuit where people can go to with a lot of different kind of food options. So to my knowledge, we're not doing anything to regulate food and food distribution.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I'm going to ask another one, because this one really hasn't been discussed much either. A section on right to occupy a person's own motor vehicle. And so what would you anticipate, and obviously it's hard to anticipate the future, but if, and I understand also that there probably is some ordinances on folks sleeping in their cars. What is your sense on if that were lifted and allowing people to sleep in their vehicles within the city? What is your sense of what that consequence would be for the city?
Ms. Huerter.
Thank you. I don't know that I can answer that question at all. Actually, the occupying the motor vehicle and sleeping in it is not one that I've actually dealt with and that I've been a part of any discussions with, so I'm sorry I cannot answer that question for you.
Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Huerter, I also read the Denver Post editorial, and it also enumerated that you spent $40 million last year on the homeless in 2015, and this year you're estimating $47 million. That's amazing. And on top of that, the City Council recently signed off on a contract for housing and a support system that would target 250 of the city's most chronically homeless, at another cost of another $10 million. In your opinion, do you think that the City of Denver could ever spend enough to satisfy the witness who spoke before you that promised violence if this bill is not passed?
Ms. Huerter.
Thank you for the question. My short answer would be no. I think that Randall testified earlier is right, is that these are really hard discussions to have, and then the right kinds of conversations. As a person who works in a criminal justice system and has seen a lot of violence and has disagrees with the use of violence or the threat of violence, I think that it's a person's right to speak as they wish to speak. For me, do I think that that there ever can be enough dollars to be able to stop, or that would justify? No, I don't. And I'm done speaking for myself at that point.